My name's Chris. You're listening to Out Cincinnati right here on Radio Artifact 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU in Cincinnati. And that is Melissa to my right.
Hello.
Happy Saturday to you. It is May 11th, about just afternoon.
That's right. It's a wonderful day.
Plenty of coffee this morning, ready and raring to go. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Melissa. I wanted to talk about this show. The idea behind it is to give the queer community in Cincinnati a voice. And my name is Chris, once again, very news presenter of me. That is Melissa, and we are here to talk queer things in Cincinnati.
That's right. We're going to inform you and hopefully entertain you a little bit.
And just in case you didn't know there was a queer community in Cincinnati, welcome to it. And what is your person of note up to today? We're going to talk a little hot topics.
This is called Melissa's Hot Topic segment, otherwise known as whatever we want to talk about today.
Or whoever Melissa has a crush on this week. I don't know if this one qualifies.
Well, it's sort of it's a lady crush.
A lady crush.
Today's segment is dedicated to one of my favorite queens of the stage and screen, Miss Liza Minnelli.
Oh, get the bottle out, girl.
I know. Judy, her mother, is wonderful, but I love Liza.
Who doesn't?
I'm a choreographer and a dancer. Before I started in radio. And Fosse is my dance god. And Liza was his muse.
Have you been watching
one of them.
The show on TV, the Fosse show?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I watch it all.
I need to get on that. Okay, so what is Liza up to?
But she, where is Liza? I was wondering this the other day, so I looked into it.
Across the Hudson in New York, last time I checked.
I know, she's wandering around Studio 54 with a martini in her hand still.
Yes, and Liberace in her tails.
Where is everybody? Where did they go?
Exactly.
No, I love you, Liza. I'm sorry. She is out and about, still performing. And she's
whereabouts and when?
She's doing these cabaret shows, like small, just a few hundred of Liza's friends out to hear her sing. Last one was in California last summer, so I don't know if we can expect her to be out this year.
Are these pop-up shows she does, or are they planned? How do we?
No, they are planned, and she just does them every once in a while. She doesn't, she's had a long career.
Right.
She's retirement age. She hangs out with her fellow performers, I hear, from the cabaret movie, or some of her.
It sounds like Liza is getting around and doing stuff.
She is. And
how old is she now? Do you know?
She is in her 70s, but I just wanted to talk about this recent Twitter controversy really quick.
Okay.
So there was a UK journalist who decided to just tweet out one of his celebrity run-ins, and then it got going on Twitter, and people were talking about their celebrity run-ins. One of them ran into Liza, apparently in the 80s.
And it hurt.
They had left their sunglasses on a table, and Ms. Liza rolled up with her friends thinking the table was empty. She put on the sunglasses, apparently thought they were looking fabulous on her.
And like me, she sweat all over them, didn't she?
And then walked off.
Walked off. She wanted them. She wanted them. She didn't leave a 20 or a flask on the table, anything.
But that's the story. So I was wondering, what is your favorite, or do you have a celebrity run-in story? I do.
I would reenact it for you. I don't think there's a piano bench at the Radio Artifact studios. By the way, this is Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. Now, let me tell you about the time that I sat on a piano bench with Al Jarreau. A tiny piano bench.
Tiny.
And I don't know about you, folks that are a bit rail thin, and it's not me, maybe don't think about piano benches like I do, but those rickety ones, I take care. So I go up there and I said, Al, are you serious? You want me to sit down next to you? He said, come on. And I'll post the picture on our Instagram. You have to see it. You have to see. He invites me if he's in his 70s when I met him, I think. He invites me over to this piano bench, just in this green room. And I'm sitting down there. And of course, instead of shaking his hand or anything, for the picture, I put my arm around him. And if you look at the picture at Out Cincinnati on Instagram and Facebook, everything else, all the above, Snapchat and everything, you will see me almost pulling him off that piano bench. Now you gave it to me. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. You gave me Ellen DeGeneres' phone number before we came on the air today. What happened?
What is her phone number? I don't know if that was her phone number.
Maybe that's wishful thinking. I wanted you to get it.
I would like to have her phone number. Yeah, so my celebrity run-in story is actually about Ellen DeGeneres. And if you go to our Twitter page
at Out Cincinnati,
you will be able to see what that is.
This hour.
And it was a encounter with Ellen DeGeneres.
Whereabouts and when?
Well, they just have to find out. They have to go to our social media page and
Oh,
find
I
out.
think you have the I just saw you doing it right now. Like you put the appropriate hashtags and everything. It was hashtag bagel, hashtag phone number. We'll talk about bagels later on. Okay, you're listening to Out Cincinnati. I wanted to. Are you good on your crush for now?
I'm
with
so
Helen?
good.
Okay.
And Liza.
And Liza.
And Liza.
Yes, I wanted to tell you I was discovering some music this week, and I found a great record at 50, 60, I want to say 59. Correct me if I'm wrong. The record is called Love is a Dragon. It's a great take on some classic songs. They are gender appropriate songs. For example, well, this song is He's Funny That Way. Now, songs might be She's Funny That Way, I'm Crazy About Her, but depending on, let's just say, who you're into, it might be something different. From the record, Love is a Drag. He's Funny That Way. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact.
I'm not much to look at, nothing to see, just glad I'm living and lucky to be. I got a man crazy for me.
My name's Chris, and you're listening to Out Cincinnati, and that's Melissa.
Hello, Chris.
We are on Radio Artifact right here, 91.7 FM, HD2 WVXU in Cincinnati. Beautiful day, can't complain. I'm sitting across from a man that I just reading about you, Mayor Meyer. It is just your public service, first of all. I think you've held more positions and more admirable things than I did, in the past 36 years of my life. One of the things I noticed, how much of your life you've given to public service. Which one of the positions, I mean, if you had to pick, stands out for you for whatever reason, whether what you did, what you remember, the people you dealt with?
Well, hi, Chris. Hi, Melissa.
Hello.
It's great to be here with you all this afternoon.
Great to have you.
I've been Mayor of Covington for about 2.5 years now, but my background is included having served as a member of the Kentucky House of Representatives, the Kentucky State Senate. I served as a senior policy advisor for the state auditor for the governor. I served as Secretary of Education and Workforce Development for the state of Kentucky, amongst a number of other things. My wife always says I just am unable to keep a job.
I was wondering, I mean, how do you fill out an application?
Well, you're doing a pretty good job so far.
Please annotate any holes in your employment, right? Now, what stands out to you? I mean, in all the applications that you filled out? No.
There's great value and wonderful memories from each of the positions that I've held. So, for example, when I was in the state senate, I was chairman of the Senate Education Committee at shortly after the time of the Kentucky Education Reform Act, and it was my job to help shepherd that reform through its first few years of existence, so that it would have a chance to see if it would work or not. And so participating in activities like that in the General Assembly stick with you for a long time.
I'm sure.
When I was Secretary of Education and Workforce Development was right after the great recession/depression of 9 and 10, and in that role I helped guide a complete reformation of the unemployment insurance program in the state of Kentucky. We also worked on career and technical education for secondary and post-secondary folks, and did a lot of workforce development activities, programs like Work Ready Kentucky that are still in use today. So each of the stops along the way you look, and there's an opportunity to make an impact and to have an effect that leaves you with some really good memories. And serving as mayor, this is my really first local office.
Okay, yeah, it sounds like this is the kind of grassroots closest you've got,
Yeah, very much, and it is it's quite different from dealing on the major policy levels in the governor's office and the General Assembly. This is where the rubber meets the road, where
absolutely.
When the road's not fixed, when there are potholes, it becomes a problem. When Customer service is so important when the person applies for a permit and they don't get a response, or it takes forever to get a response, or they get the runaround. These kind of things are opportunities where government interfaces with individuals on the most basic level, and it's really the best opportunity to show the people of our communities that local government and all government can in fact work for them.
Absolutely. So when you send an email, I want to paint my house, I want to put a hedge, I mean, that's just as important as the license for the pop-up store down the road, or the traffic lights out. What did you find in your education work, working with teachers? People say, well, if you're not in the field, how can you legislate? How can you make rules about us? Did you find that teachers were on board, receptive when you were? I mean, it's a big question for a lot that you did, but overall.
Well, back in the late 80s and early 90s, when we were at the heart of education reform, engagement and participation with the education community itself was an important element of reform. And I used to say that when I was in the Secretary's office that none of the big policy things that we talk about and deal with matter, except to the extent that they influence the behavior of that teacher and student, the interaction between teacher and pupil in the classroom. So having the teaching community engaged and fully partners in the change is absolutely fundamental to the success of any education improvement program.
That's amazing, and I think teachers would say, I tried to be a teacher once, and it was just one of those things. I did not have the heart for it. That's just a personal thing, and I have such admiration for that, and the fact that you listen and have that dialogue when something like that comes around.
We expect teachers to be all things to all people, to do so much more than just teach the ABCs. They've got to be behavior specialists.
Raise our kids.
Raise our kids. They've got to socialize them. They've got to health care them. And it's unreasonable what we expect of teachers.
And did you ever, in thinking about the LGBT community, Covington, Greater Cincinnati, wherever, did you ever run into the creation or have a comment about the effectiveness of gay-straight alliances, how that came about? Did any of the schools you kind of frequented, have been in, have those kind of?
Quite honestly, in my world and work, that was never an issue that cropped up.
It almost wasn't. People were supported anyways. Aside, they didn't need a separate group.
I can't say that. Maybe it's just because it was so long ago that I was involved in some of this stuff on the school level, and as a school board attorney and such, that those attitudes just weren't at play.
And I just, that's interesting, because I think about my time in high school, that didn't exist, and I wasn't looking for support, but I guess if I needed it, it would have been there in the way of a guidance counselor. I never had that village raising a child, but I never was out in high school either.
Yours is a very common experience.
Suburbs of Cincinnati is where for information, northern suburbs.
and the southern suburbs across the river. It's difficult for young people to come out, and it's only been the past few years that there seems to be a much wiser acceptance.
If that's the case, then that's a great thing, and I didn't need to ask the question. But no, that's great. I think GSAs are great where maybe that support is lacking, and the fact that it's there, that's wonderful. I think that we're going to take a short break and come back. I want to talk to you about Covington Catholic, and I want to talk about the Fairness Ordinance. We're going to hear from Janelle Monet. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact.
Baby, don't make me spell it out for you. All of the feelings that I got for you can't be explained, but I can try for you. Yeah, baby, don't make me. That's just the way you make me feel.
You're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. My name is Chris, and this is 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU. That is Melissa.
Hello.
Thank you so much for taking care of keeping those levels where they need to be
there
on the
I am,
mic.
sorry.
So yes, that is one of those level words, technical things. We are talking with the Mayor of Covington. Hello, Mayor. Thank you so much for joining us in the what is it? The rectory of an old Catholic church. What a cool place to.
St. Pius X.
Yes,
right next door.
Yes, exactly. And now it's kind of a different purpose nowadays. I wanted to ask you, and everyone's going to remember Covington Catholic, the kid in the red hat, the video of the of. You were telling me just before we were talking, the government of Covington had to keep its social media, its email, its phones open, and you got a really big response. What was that like? I mean, that video has been viewed more than a few times on YouTube.
Well, the response was overwhelming and miserable across the spectrum. On the Saturday, and remember, this is the Saturday Martin Luther King Jr. Holiday weekend. And
I remember 2 days before the holiday, you get
Yeah.
this big.
Well, and that Saturday morning, we had actually gone to a MLK Jr. Event at a small Catholic church in Covington, where we heard these great stories of young African American women and boys and Jewish and gay and Muslim and across the board, all the different stripes and their experiences as members of a minority groups in our community. And it was very uplifting and engaging. And then later that day, the Covington Catholic episode hit, and the social media for the school and the church, of course, was shut down.
Right.
The city, we couldn't do that, and we were hit literally with thousands and thousands of messages.
Not so
on
friendly,
that
some of them,
Saturday.
I'm sure. And
Every
after
one
that
of them
event,
critical. Every one of them critical.
And
of
what
us.
was it critical about? Not the situation, but the city, right?
But the city. It was the city. We're a bunch of bigoted, racist, horrible people, just really criticizing. Every
What a thing.
bad
I mean, people who don't know.
stereotype that you would imagine, they applied to us, and Covington is different from the rest of northern Kentucky, and it's a little bit different from Cincinnati too, in that we are diverse and we're proud of it and we promote it, and we think that's one of our assets. And
Absolutely.
we're right in the middle of a big boom right now because people want to live in the environment that we have in Covington. And what was being projected across the nation was 180 degrees opposite of the truth of the city of Covington.
Yeah.
So I took and responded in order to defend the city. and say,
Absolutely.
that's not who we are. This is who we are. And I stated our values.
And of course, we're talking.
And,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. We're talking to Mayor of Covington here, and we're talking about the Covington Catholic response. I want to ask you about the two op-eds, and the reason why. The first one was after the incident, right after, and why did you feel the need to write a second one? And I love the fact that you use bullet points, because that really forces people to read, if you will. If I use my teaching mind again.
After the part 2 of the Covington Catholic thing came out, where the left was real mad at us in the first place, now the right was equally mad at us.
Right.
And the vitriol and the hatred and the threats were just off the chart. I mean, when my administrative assistant came to work on Tuesday morning, she had over 590 voicemails that she had to listen to. And
she still had space.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I mean,
like
after
the machine didn't shut off.
The city of Covington has got some great phones. I mean, check it. No, but, no, 590. I got where I'm writing that down.
She told me that when she was a little girl, she was part of the group that integrated the Cincinnati public schools. And she said this was a worse experience. So,
Wow.
yeah.
It sounds like people need to stop, look, listen, evaluate, right, before writing an email or leaving a message.
The part 2 had to respond to, the rest of the story, if you will. And the point of part 2 is simply to make the point that, look, everybody engaged in that was a loser. There are no winners when you cross the lines and like that. The boys, everybody can claim innocence and
Right.
no intent, but in this world today, once you cross that line, it makes no difference. The line was crossed. people reached conclusions. People acted on those, and those who were for the school are damaged. People who are against the school were
Correct.
damaged. And what we were trying to do is just lessen the damage. There are no winners.
In your opinion, and you watched that video, what do you think the kids and that gentleman could have done? Do you think standing there and smirking or not, however you want to see it, was standing there and just staring good? Do you walk away? Because I've been to political, events, stuff before, and people are sometimes caustic.
Yeah, they can get in your face.
Yeah, a little bit. You just kind of like, woo.
The thing that should have been done was when the black African Israelites engaged the Covington Catholic boys in the confrontation, the chaperones should have said no.
Let's get out of here.
Let's get out of here. And instead, the chaperones encouraged the boys to do their school chant and to step up the confrontation.
Show some pride, if you will. Yeah.
And with groups like that one, they're well known as a bunch of hateful idiots.
You walk away.
Whenever you confront them, they win. So Covington Catholic confronted.
Because they're trying to get a reaction.
They're there to poke you in the chest, even if they don't touch you.
Right.
I mean, that's it.
They want you to react to it.
I really hope those kids learn that, in the future, you tell your chaperone, we're walking away. You set an example for your chaperone.
Well, schools, other Northern Kentucky schools were there, and they did walk away, and you didn't hear any stories about them.
That is
something.
Well, I appreciate you defending the city. That is really something, that op-ed. If people didn't hear you then, they're still going to leave me voicemails, and people still will, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But that is a great thing. We're talking to Mayor of Covington, Mayor Meyer. Thank you so much. I wanted to ask you about the fairness ordinance. Tell us a little bit about that.
Covington's had a full fairness ordinance for 16 years now.
It's still important to note. You said how many years?
16.
16 years, and there are cities and companies that still just do not have anything.
Covington is the only city in all of Northern Kentucky to have a fairness ordinance.
And what has been your takeaway from seeing it enacted in your time as mayor? Does it work?
It's worked incredibly well. A few isolated incidents here and there that can be quickly corrected, but the more important part is the message that this is a city, this is a community where everybody's got a chance to live and be what they want to be, regardless of, pick a category.
You just walk around Covington, there is inclusion everywhere. I took a picture. I mean, there's a rainbow flags, any color, purple flags, blue flags, white flags, GTOs, everything in Covington. That's just wonderful. Yeah. I want to thank you for joining us on Out Cincinnati. This has been an honor.
Thank you so much,
Mayor of Covington, and thank you so much once again. You're listening to Out Cincinnati. This is 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU in Cincinnati.
All right, thanks, Chris and Melissa.
It takes so long. Been friends for years.
You're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact, streaming live at radioartifact.com anytime. My name is Chris, and I am so thrilled to be joined by Mr. Arturo Sandoval. How are you, sir?
How you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm good. Cincinnati is finally getting warm. We cannot wait to have you at the Ludlow Garage. Are you excited?
Oh, man, of course. We always say it in the music business, when you got a gig, it's a reason to be happy.
Absolutely, because any work is
always
right.
highly appreciated.
Exactly. I wanted to let people know Arturo will be at the Ludlow Garage on May 17th. That's coming up just about a week from now at 8:30. And, of course, you can grab tickets at ludlowgarageCincinnati.com. Just wanted to give that information. What do you have planned for Cincinnati? Of course, you're for folks who do not know, a trumpet player, a piano player, and just somebody I admire. What do you have planned for us?
Okay, we're going to be with my own band, which is always, a big pleasure, because I'm so blessed and happy to have a group of musicians very dedicated and very professional and an excellent musician. I'm very, very excited. I'm very happy about it. and we're gonna try our best to make the people have a good time there, my friend.
I can tell you the Ludlow Garage is a great venue. I saw you in an interview talking about freedom and how freedom is important. You know, people in the LGBT community, people I know have been fighting for freedom for years. How do you define freedom in 2019? I mean, you have quite a history there.
I'm going to tell you, I never get tired to repeat and say that freedom is the number one and the most important word in the entire dictionary. No freedom, I always also say, no freedom, no life. You know, when you don't have freedom, everything is miserable. You know, the life is not worthy at all, and then you're struggling with everything, and it's horrible. You know, and the people who never lose the freedom, they really don't have a very clear idea of what that means. You know, when you really live under dictatorship and oppression of the world kind, I'm going to tell you, is you really learn very well what that means, you know, and how hard it is for any human.
I really appreciate that answer. I wanted, with the class, by the way, we're talking to Arturo Sandoval. I want to not get ahead of myself and remind people that you're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. You started out with a love of classical music, right?
Actually, I started playing traditional Cuban music in my village where I grew up with a little local band.
Oh, okay.
That was the first thing I did for a while. And then I got a scholarship to get 3 years on the Conservatory of Music, getting a classical training, strictly classical training. And then after that, I started to play with a big orchestra there. It was a 20-piece band. And but so far, I didn't hear any jazz yet. And then one day, a journalist, he was a big-time jazz aficionado, you know. He talked to me and he asked me, "You ever hear jazz music?" I said, "What is that?" And he said, "Okay, come with me." And then he played for me an album of Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. Trust me, that was, oh my Lord.
That's all you need to hear.
Oh my Lord, that impression is still lingering in my head, you know, for so many years. And I'm still trying to figure it out what those people were playing, you know.
It's true, and jazz is I think jazz is very subjective. And when you listen and when you fall in love, and there's so many facets of it you can discover. What can you tell people who are listening in Cincinnati to Radio Artifact? My question is, how do you encourage people to get out and hear live jazz? Because, you know, we're very, very lucky to have a venue like the Ludlow Garage that will bring you to Cincinnati. It's kind of sparse in this city.
I'm going to tell you, we are getting through a kind of difficult situation because jazz is not getting enough support, especially from the media in general, you know. And it's difficult for the younger generation to get access to that kind of music. I live in this country for 30 years, and I tell you, I'm very sad to tell you that I never see any jazz on television, ever. And the little station that play jazz, they're all the community radio, their broadcast on the antenna is not very powerful and things like that. But in the prime time of television, for example, I never ever heard any jazz.
And if you do, it's kind of a joke, like part of a dancing show or something. It's never a focus.
It's difficult because we don't have the support that music deserves, to be honest. That's what I mean, you know. And I'm going to tell you another bad news that we got nowadays is that a majority of a jazz festival in the country, they're not booking jazz acts. And that's another thing that is very, very, very bad for us and for the style of music, you know. And then, I strongly believe that jazz is the most profound and important genre of music that has been created in this country, and we must protect it. We must.
Absolutely.
We must save that legacy that we got from so many great artists over the year. We cannot ignore that. We have to protect it and defend it, and that's what I think about.
We have a couple of great venues in Cincinnati, but it's really hit and miss. I'm talking to Arturo Sandoval. He is going to be at the Ludlow Garage coming up on May 17th at 8:30 p.m. I encourage folks to get out and see him, see live jazz. He's got a great band. It's going to be a great time. I wanted to ask you, your record in 2018, which to move on from, we need to build jazz back up, obviously, and your duets record. What is your biggest memory? I mean, you have a big list of folks you worked with: Ariana Grande, Stevie Wonder. It just goes on. You have a fun story from a recording session or something that surprised you?
I'm going to tell you, and I am extremely grateful to all the artists that participate as a special guest in that album. It's my only duets album that I ever did, and it's such a privilege and honor to have the company of 11 different great artists, and I'm very happy that they say yes since the very first moment that I talked to them, and the album came out very good. I'm very pleased and I'm proud with the album.
You don't have to pick a favorite. Do you record that entire record, side by side with those people, or is it kind of where?
Absolutely.
Okay. Because some duets albums, are recorded in New York and LA and merged together. That's so great to hear that there was a live session, and that's how jazz should be recorded and experienced live and in person.
But most of the things were recorded here in Los Angeles, but we recorded different things in Spain, in London, in Miami, and but it's a roster of incredible artists, and I still in very overwhelmed about the attitude that they got, and
That's great. I was listening to that record this afternoon. I want to remind folks that you were listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact. Arturo Sandoval will be at the Ludlow Garage on May 17th, 8:30 p.m. I wanted to ask you one fun question. Have you tried our Cincinnati chili?
I would love to try.
And so, when you come, there are a couple of options. I encourage you, and I'm not crazy. I just love the chili. There are a couple of options. Google around, and we have big chains and we have mom and pop chili parlors. It's a very interesting world, and everybody has their favorite and everybody knows their order. Just a little Cincinnati culture for all of the culture that you're bringing to us. Thank you so much for your time today. I want to.
Oh no, my pleasure. Thank you so much, and I'm really looking forward to see everybody there.
At the Ludlow Garage, May 17th. It's a great venue. Thank you, Arturo.
Thank you so much, man. Have a wonderful day.
Well, you're listening to Out Cincinnati on Radio Artifact, 91.7 FM, HD2, WVXU right here in Cincinnati. And that's Melissa right across the way. Nice fade on that lovely song.
Thank you so much.
Sitting across from me, two wonderful people with some wonderful food behind their names. Julia, Keister? Keister, excuse me.
Just like butt.
There's just like butt. Those German names. And Missy Spears. Julia, you're the owner of Lil's Bagels in Covington, and it's on Green Up Street. What's the address?
308.
308 Green Up Street in Covington. So I was looking, and we're going to talk about an event called Queer Soup, and it's just a little preview for that. In about 5 minutes, we're gonna find out what Queer Soup is, what it means, and there's a little history there too. I'd like to know about Lil's Bagels because as a resident of Covington, I got excited, and Missy can tell you, I got excited about these bagels. And I think I told you.
Yes, you were
Melissa,
very excited about
I
the
was
bagels.
very excited about your bagel. It was just, it was wonderful. No, what's on the menu? What is? I know that a lot has happened. There was a little bit of downtime. You bounced back kind of in the spring, and I looked at the menu. I saw tahini chocolate chip cookies, but elaborate, please. I'm listening.
So a little bit. So people always ask, who's Lil? And we say Lil's dead, but she was my grandmother, and so who never made a bagel in her life, but taught me what a good bagel is. And so she was Jewish, and so a lot of the menu comes from based in Jewish tradition, but we try to make it fresh, so make it modern and just kind of a nod to the tradition.
And what are the flavors? I remember Old Bay is one of them.
So so Old Bay comes from my Maryland roots, where also Lil was from. But so Old Bay is a seasoning that if you're from Maryland, it's your ketchup.
Because I had to ask Missy about what is Old Bay.
Yeah.
I know I've seen it in the bottom of my mom's spice, thing.
I had no idea what that was.
I think it is amazing. I tried one the other day. So Old Bay, and what else?
So Old Bay is just a seasoning, but it comes from the Maryland roots. And then we do things with a lot of pickles. So we pickle everything in house, which is a very old Jewish tradition.
It's there's a rainbow. That's pickled, right? The rainbow slaw. Did I get it right?
We have a slaw. We have pickled turmeric jicama. We make our own sauerkraut. We make our own pickled green tomatoes.
Wow.
We smoke pastrami, which is also super Jewish.
And the cookies you make them.
We make tahini chocolate chip cookies.
I'm getting hungry.
I keep stopping. And yes, you can order online. No, that is that's wonderful. So sandwiches, not just bagels too. I can come to the window.
The window.
DOU.
Yep.
The window.
So you get the window.
And get I believe there's grilled cheese, a whole bunch of different sandwiches, lox and that I saw that on Instagram.
The Lil sandwich is probably our most popular, which is your classic lox, red onion, dill, with the chive cream cheese on everything bagel. But then we, expand out all the way to deli sandwiches, and our lunch crowd has definitely grown since we reopened because we've added almost a full line of meats and cheeses to the menu. And then our second most popular sandwich would be the Godfather, G-A-W-D,
Godfather.
And that
I love it.
Right?
We use our smoked pastrami, and we use pimento cheese and our pickled green tomatoes. So that's a killer sandwich.
The way to my heart. I hear that. Okay, I wanted to ask, since you came back with Lil's, there's other bagel shops around. How do you stand out? I mean, I read you felt that, because what happened was, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a time where you kind of closed for a bit, came back, and you had an interesting response from people that you kind of didn't expect. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we like to think our food is really good, but beyond that, we think what makes us stand apart is just the experience. Mm-hmm. So not just that you get to see Missy Schmears at the window.
Missy Schmears at the window. I wonder what that smells like. Okay. All right.
But we always have great music playing and a really welcoming atmosphere vibe happening.
It seems that people can walk up with earlier today I was wearing spider pants and a holy shirt. I could totally cruise by the window that.
Definitely, you would fit right in.
Oh, I'm right at home at Lil's, and that's Green Up Street and 308. Right, those are the numbers we need to remember.
That's
Melissa.
right.
Okay,
we need our bagel fix and
bagel fix and fast. So, folks, there's a window and everything, and I wanted to. Do we need to get to a song? We can talk about the event.
We have a couple more minutes.
Okay, well let's talk about this. Well, Missy, I wanted to ask. Missy's your manager at Lil's. And there's a little bit. If you've seen news in Cincinnati, you might have seen a news clip from Fox 19 where the guy's all serious about the wall between Newport and Covington. I think I want to ask you about that and throw out whatever else you want to throw in. But what was that about?
So I ran for Covington City Commission last year, and I've had this plan for a few years where basically I wanted to take something from the national election that I felt personally was ridiculous, downsize it to the local level, and then push out that agenda and see if like Trump people would be on board with that, or if they would catch on that it's a silly idea at the local level.
And
what I found out was Trumpers very much so supported me, and liberals never researched me enough to figure out it wasn't real.
so, folks, and the idea was to keep the drugs in
Drugs in Newport,
In
keep the
Newport.
trouble out of Covington.
because all the good drugs are in Covington. No, I'm kidding. No, so people thought you were serious.
Yeah, they thought I was serious. Yeah.
And I saw folks interviewed on the news, and I mean, I could see some folks, not that I'm saying anything about Newport, but I could see folks, oh, no, that has to be true with all the stuff you hear anyways.
Yeah.
And didn't you have a logo that was Make Covington Great Again
Yeah,
in the blue?
I literally just took Trump's logo and put my name over
Did you
it.
get a nasty email from Kellyanne or anything? I mean, she starts talking before she even answers. I think she's just on it. I want to get to a song, I think. And what do we have, Melissa?
We have Robin coming up with, I can't read it, I'm sorry.
She can't read the Robin song.
Love
Okay,
Robin.
this is Robin and Honey. You're listening to Out Cincinnati on 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU.
No, you're not gonna get what you need. But baby, I have what you
You're listening to Out Cincinnati. My name's Chris. This is 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU on Radio Artifact. And that was a long sentence, right? Okay,
That was very
Missy,
long.
I wanted to ask you. I'm joined by Missy, and you are manager at Lil's Bagels, and Julia, owner. And I wanted to ask you, that was your wedding song, right?
Yeah.
As you say. Well, I think 3 songs ago was your wedding song, too.
They're all her wedding songs.
How many times have you been married?
Just once.
Just once, but many
lying.
wedding.
When you find a good joke, it's hard to have any original ones.
Yes, you've
And,
known me for a
yeah,
week, and you've heard all mine already. So that I think, yeah,
and you'll just keep hearing this one.
I would
I
agree.
still laugh every time, I promise.
Right, and
If you're
that's
sincere.
that's how you work together and maintain a working relationship. I'm going to tell this joke 20 times this week. Every time it's the same laugh, or I'm just going to be pissed. I want to ask you, since it's May 11th, and I love soup and sandwiches and bagels, and so does Melissa. What's going on tonight, and what does it benefit? It's called Queer Soup, and that intrigues me.
So yeah, it's called Queer Soup Night, and it is a party / benefit that happens nationally, and so it's making its way to Covington's. It's the Covington Cincinnati Queer Soup Night edition.
And it got its start somewhere else, or
It got its start in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Actually, a friend of mine started it with a group of queers. And their whole thing was, every event, queer event, is so centered on alcohol. So
Okay.
let's center it on something else that's really communal and focus on queer community, queer chefs, and all the proceeds go to a different queer organization every time.
And which organization is that, and what do they do? Just so
Yeah, so the organization that's the Cincinnati-based one is called Caracal.
Okay. And that's
And-
HIV testing.
Yeah.
Okay. that's-
Awareness,
okay.
prevention, etc. So they're really awesome, and yeah, so all the proceeds will go to them.
And what is the where and when? Obviously at Lil's Bagels.
It's at
on Green Up
Lil's.
in Covington on tonight. About what time?
From 6 to 8.
Okay.
So and we'll have a DJ, Planet Venus, who's awesome, and the food will be made by a few different queer chefs, including myself, Kate Zeiden from Dean's Mediterranean, and Ro, I believe she's at Enjoy in Covington.
Yeah, I saw Enjoy.
In Cincinnati, sorry.
So you have collaboration from chefs. Do you know? I know that it's a little bit. Well, it's this evening. I wanted to know at least one type of soup that's going to be. Is there going to be a tomato bisque? I sound like that guy at the restaurant. I'll have the souffle 45 minutes
The
later.
tomato bisque is lovely.
There is some. Tell me, there's going to be something with a tomato.
It's
on
only
it.
tomato bisque, actually.
Only
It's a
tomato bisque?
Tomato bisque
All
competition.
tomato bisque.
Tomato
all the time.
bisque?
Yeah, it's a tomato
Yeah.
bisque.
Queer soup, tomato bisque, and I think that I think I'm gonna set myself up with a grilled cheese and a nice big bagel. Are you gonna have those bread, the bread from Ale as well?
We're gonna
this
do
evening?
our za'atar bagel chips,
Oh my gosh!
so that will come with all the soup.
What do those taste like? What is that?
So it's-
Garlicky goodness.
Yeah, it's a spice blend. We take our bagels, we slice them up, put olive oil and za'atar seasoning on them, and they're pretty amazing.
I mean, check that out. Instead of getting the bagel chips at Kroger, right? You just chop them up, and it's like making those Parmesan crackers. That is going to be some delicious stuff. And it's benefiting, I'm going to mess up the pronunciation of what's the organization?
Caracol. Yep.
Caracol. Okay. And that is this evening, and it's at Lil's Bagels. And what's the address?
308 Greenup.
Okay. And look for the window. And it's not just the window. There's a space outside you're developing, or what's the status there? Is there going to be an outside space people can hang?
Yeah, we've actually had a few different events, and there are a few more events on our calendar. So we're doing a bunch of things for Northern Kentucky Pride, but the patio is really the spot, the party spot. We have lights up. That's where the DJ will probably be set up, as long as the weather cooperates, and it's going to be a great time.
And do you see other events happening down the road? I mean, for other that sounds like a wonderful thing. It sounds like you're perfectly scratching each other's back. I mean, you're getting folks at Lil's, you're helping this great organization. I hope to see more things at Lil's. I hope to come by the window. I'm not a father, but a dad joker too. I really appreciate the window. By the way, you're listening to Out Cincinnati. Thank you so much to Missy and to Julia for coming.
Thank you.
Lil's
Thank
Bagels,
you.
that is the
Whoop,
queer
whoop.
queer soup
Lil's did.
event. We'll have all the information outcincinnati.com at our Facebook page. All social media is at Out Cincinnati. I think I've done my little PSA.
Yes, and did you give our email?
Our email, outcincinnati@gmail.com. I think you just sent me your wedding song 5 times. My phone is vibrating off the table. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank
I
you.
think we're going to do a little wrap. You've been listening to the first edition, well, not the first edition, one of the first editions, excuse me, of Out Cincinnati. It is May 11th. You can go check out our social media at Out Cincinnati. All the details on Queer Soup.
I'm Melissa.
Right there. That is Melissa. I am Chris. This is Out Cincinnati. Going to leave you with a classic from Red Garland. Some nice jazz, right? How do you like Over the Rainbow?
Oh,
I mean, never a bad idea, right?
that was Missy's.
Sounds very gay.
Was that your...
That's what she walked down the aisle to.
It was.
You
It was also my
walked in.
first communion song.
And then when you ate bagels together after, you listened to this.
We cried.
And you cried and
Yeah.
ate bagels.
Yeah.
crying now.
Sounds like someone needs to take a shower. Okay. This is Out Cincinnati. I'm Chris. That's Melissa. You're listening to Radio Artifact 91.7 FM HD2 WVXU in Cincinnati.